Hi and welcome. My name is Tony Dovale, founder and CEO of Life Masters. I'm in South Africa and I'd like to share with you one of my case studies and the overview of our revolutionary workplace, which has been developed, designed and refined over 40 years of my work of people, teams, leadership, culture in South Africa. It's a consciously constructive approach, which means we grow, build, and develop everybody on a frequent basis, at least weekly, but ideally on a daily basis. It covers the 4 pillars of people, teams, leadership, and culture, which underpins your strategic ability to actually go and execute what you hope your strategy will achieve and deliver excellence, but also supporting people, planet, and profits. We're away no longer just focusing on profit, 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 which is what I call greedership, but to create real leadership, it's people, planet, and profit. And so I'd like to take you through a case study. It'll be about an hour. I'm sharing the information that comes out of our high performance assessment that we would typically do before an intervention. And as we go, I'll talk about what I see, what I feel, and what I observe. Because if you're going to be driving a high performance car or high performance company, you need some kind of way of understanding what the issues are, what the circumstances are, and what needs attention. So for those that are interested, I actually have a 1-hour audio that's available on 1minutewisdom.com, which takes you through culture, leadership, engagement, appreciative action, readiness, and execution excellence. So this is the cover from the audio. I will be packaging this into a manual at a later stage. Right now, I'm the only facilitator globally that is certified and qualified to facilitate the process, but we will be expanding it and rolling that out. So to start the process of assessing how the people, teams, leadership, and culture is going, each person gets a digital assessment like the one on the left, and that you can see has 6 different areas covering culture, leadership, engagement, action, right mindsets, and execution excellence. Those are the 6 areas that have academically been validated and proven to create the triple bottom line impact in creating a high performance organization. This framework has been validated with a Professor Dovale from the High Performance Center in Holland, and we've adjusted it and improved it for our South African context based on my 40 years of experience and research. This is a close-up in the design that I've structured. So very quickly down the right-hand side, the score is out of 10, 0 to 10. We can quickly scan and see the black. There's a very big oops. Management is trusted by staff, question number 3. So from this alone, I can already instantly see this person is not a very happy chicken in their workplace. And to make them a high-performance chicken, it's not only them we're going to have to work on. We're going to have to work on people as well. You can see there's lots of red, lots of black down here around management. So this is obviously one perspective. We would then consolidate that with other people, and then using our fancy software, we would slice and dice and start to see by gender, by race, by manager, by position, by tenure, and a whole host of things that we can then start to get an X-ray vision in understanding what is the real challenge with our organization. We then get this graph. Obviously, the wider it is towards the outside is better in the 6 areas of culture, leadership, engagement, mindset, and execution, which we call CLEARx. So looking at this person, I can tell you they're not very engaged. In fact, they're probably very disengaged in their process. So let's get into showing you the process and the content. So here's just one of the dashboards that or the software that we use. You can see down the right hand side we have all the questions from the assessments. On the left hand side we have the fields that we have got the information of the person and everything. I have anonymized it so we don't know who the people are nor who the managers are of these. Very often, if you want to get honest feedback, you need to make sure that it's completely confidential, 100% confidential, and that's what we do promise. And so I've taken just one of the dimensions of the total for the culture, the 10 questions in culture, and you can see I've divided here by race, black, white, and Indian. And so we have a chance to start to be able to slice and dice the data. This is the group. The total is out of a total of 600 for the entire assessment. So I've sorted these. Each graph, vertical graph, is an individual's total. The higher equals better. Ideally 600, between sort of 450 and 600 is the high performance area. But as you can see, we have a lot of unhappy chickens that are not very happy in this space. So using one of the tools, we then created a formula to say anything below 420 on the 600 scale across the top, you can see the ideal score. If it's greater than 420, we give them a green color. If it's less than 420, we give it a red color. I often say red equals dead, green equals go. As you can see from this team, there's a huge amount of no-go, if we want to call that process. This is also an example where we've anonymized the managers across the top, M1 to M12. And if we can then start to see the color is by manager, so the colors don't denote good or bad, it's just that's by manager. But once again, it's out of 600 on the left-hand side, higher equals better. And we start to see there are some managers that are doing quite nicely with their staff. There are others that are quite low with their staff. And that allows us to start to see where in the organization, where the wobbles are. Imagine you've got a high-performance vehicle and you've got this vibration, but you have no idea where the vibration is. You need a way to start to be able to track it and trace it and then address it. And that's what this process on our high-performance revolutionary workplace process gives us. Here is an overview of the 6 CLEARx areas: culture, leadership across the top, engagement, action, mindset, and execution. I've divided everything that it's out of 100 on the left-hand side, higher equals better. Anything lower than 70 out of 100 is not into high performance. And so once again, red equals dead. As you can see, we have a lot of red under culture, under leadership, very small slivers of green. Mindset, also very small slivers. So in this very large organization, they're an international organization, so under execution they're doing okay. But in some of these other areas here, engagement, which is where your impact on performance, profitability, leadership, the organizational culture, and the mindsets of the people, there's a lot of work. And we know from biology, 6% of a system controls a system. And so if I look at this, at least this is 60% of the system here is negative and underperforming, and they're going to dominate and constrict any kind of performance at any kind of strategic activity that you try and activate. I've taken the exact same graph, but just to show you some of the capabilities. We have the colors across the bottom are the racial colors. So we've got this mustard color is European white, we've got the gray as Indian, and the brown as blacks, and then we've got male and female. So we can actually start to see, is it a male-female issue, is it a racial issue? That's just one of the ways we can slice and dice the data. Similar kind of thing now, I've just made the females the slimmer versions. So under manager 8, you can see this female is doing well. Down this manager here, this lady's not doing as well. And so we're able to get into this data. 60 questions from a range of people allows us to absolutely drill right down and see what is it that is causing the problem. So let's get going. Let's get the first one. The first section is culture in our CLEARx framework. We know culture impacts and context impacts a huge amount of performance. In fact, it's the biggest constraint, can be up to between 40 and 60% of the results of an organization. Once again, down the left, it's out of each vertical bar is an individual. It's their total score for 10 questions under culture. Everything greater than 65, I've been a little bit more lenient here, but anything greater than 65 is green for go. Anything less than 65 is red for dead. And as you can see here, this culture, there's a huge problem. And even the lower people right down here, that for me signals a huge disengagement issue. This is, I can't tell you the company, but I can tell you, based on my work and the research and conversations, this is costing them millions, and probably close to millions a month, never mind millions a year. So here we have the same information. It's the culture score, but I've divided by managers. So everything above 65 is green, and we are able to start to see this manager here, manager 9. There's some issues with this manager and his people. Manager 12, also all of his people are down. And so very often we start addressing the people part of it, but we're ignoring the manager. And so putting good people in a bad workplace, in a bad team space, in a bad culture is not going to help you to create a high performance workplace. So we're able to see here that there's some issues with some of the managers that need some support. So let's get into the questions. Question number 1 in the culture is: management allows making mistakes and learning. Each bar is a vertical, is an individual. The score is out of 10, higher equals better. What could concern me is the low, some of these lows down here, right down here. There's one happy bunny here. And so based on it being a score out of 10, I would challenge this person as to whether they're honest or they thought that the confidentiality would get back to management and they're scared of consequences, which is a huge problem. But we can already see that the average is less than 6 out of 10. So if you're going to create a high-performance workplace, a lot of work needs to happen in creating a safe, psychologically safe, workspace safe, team space for people to grow and discover and expand and be creative and innovate and learn and grow as they do. Question 2, management welcomes and supports positive change. A slightly better score, but there's still for me a huge amount of red. This is everything under 7. Everything under 7 out of 10 I've put, because everything above 7 out of 10 I would say you're getting close to higher performance, but we wanted to check what is this real situation. And so a large component was saying that management doesn't welcome and support positive change. This is a very, very disconcerting graph. Management is trusted by staff. When doing the assessments, we need to make sure that we are measuring the right management. This was into the higher levels of the organizational management at executive level. And as you can see, we have a few people at 0, only 2 happy bunnies here, and the rest, there's a huge level of uncertainty. Uncertainty creates withdrawal, disengagement, cover your butt. And so I know based on conversations with some of the staff that you get the senior levels right at the CEO level, swearing, shouting, abusing staff, telling them they're effing useless. And so I would expect to see some of this kind of result. Management has good integrity. Obviously, if you know, as the leader goes, so the pack follows. All organizations want honesty and integrity and trustworthiness. And the fact that we have some staff here right down very low, and the majority of them down this low level, tells me that integrity is a challenge. And one of the things that one of the comments I heard was, we claim that quality is important, but we get pushed on production to get stuff out irrespective of the quality component. So what really is important, and that's the message that the executives are sending to the staff down the lower levels. So management is decisive with regard to non-performers in a workplace where people feel unfair. With this unfairness, it's a reptilian switch in the brain from the work of David Rock. This has got to, you can't have non-performers, because they will then just switch off everyone else. Why must I work when they're not working? And 1 or 2 non-performers can smash your momentum and performance of your entire organization. And the fact that these are so low tells me that there's a fair amount of favoritism and non-monitoring or measuring. But I promise you, everybody measures and monitors versus what they're putting in versus what they believe they're getting out. Management promoted within the organization. The research shows for high-performance organizations that management is promoted from within. Everybody wants to grow, learn, be, do, and have more. Typically, they earn more by being promoted. So you can see here, there's no long-term expectation for growth and promotion within an organization. So my question is then why must I give you my best? I'll do just what I have to do, and so disengagement grows again. I trust my manager to have my back. This was relating to their own personal first-level manager. Good to see some green, good to see some quite high scores, showing good relationships, because people join an organization for vision, mission, values, and the opportunity. But typically they are driven to leave in spite of that, based on the quality of relationships vertically with their supervisor, manager, and horizontally with their peers. So at least we have a bit more green for go here. I'm proud of where I work. Pride is one of the core factors in the science of happiness at work. Pride drives people to go the extra mile. It keeps them in a not so positive or toxic workplace. So that proud is an attractive factor that gets people up in the morning. Good to see the amount of green, but I would also be concerned to see what are these other people, what are the issues around being proud? What is the issue? People are safe enough to openly speak. In today's terms, transparency, feedback. We live in a complex VUCA world. As an executive exco, you have less than a 5% understanding what's happening down at the coalface. And so with this one being as low as it is, with all these low people, there's a fear-based environment, which means I'm not going to stick up my head, I'm not going to risk anything. And so innovation, creativity, people stepping up, leadership in non-leadership roles, getting like what we call limitless leadership on every level. There's a huge gap in this situation. Question 10. Everyone is on a daily personal development plan. Our consciously constructive approach is about developing and growing people on a daily basis. Yes, you can try and do it once a week or once a month, or send some people on occasional trainings. But if you truly want to get the best and optimize your potential in your organization, there needs to be some kind of incremental programming, development, rewire, rethinking of mindset, attitude, all the top 20 mindset qualities. And so there are one or two here, but a large majority of people are same old, the same people that they were yesterday and the day before and the day before. And so trying to create a higher performance workplace with a handbrake on like this is going to be a huge challenge. And so that's the 10 questions from the culture section of our revolutionary workplace. We're now going to start to cover the leadership section. We have 10 questions. Once again, each vertical bar is an individual. Higher equals better, score out of 10. Anything above 70 out of 100 is green. So we have a very small component again of people that are in this high performance leadership zone, with a lot of people really out of it there. It's like having this wonderful, huge high performance vehicle that you just spent 20 million on, but all the wheels is a problem. The steering wheel, the petrol, the fuel gauges, the dashboard, the wiring, the timing. It's just, you're not going to be getting anywhere. We know leadership has a huge impact on performance. In fact, it can have anything between a 40 to 60% impact on an average, never mind in extreme cases. In extreme cases, leadership can completely turn an organization around. So leadership is vital. Leadership on every level, what we call limitless leadership, because the challenge that we have is our leadership pipelines are empty in many organizations. The culture, the workplace, the environment has not been conducive to growing people to pick up that slack there. So this is the overall leadership total out of 100. Each question is out of 10. So this is consolidated for leadership for each person. So question 11, which is the question 1 for leadership. Management is a positive role model. We have some happy bunnies here, but the majority, and there's a lot of people low down here. So already this tells me there are challenges, disrespect issues, lack of credibility issues, lack of trust issues in this organization. And it doesn't take long. You don't have to swear, scream, shout, lie, crook, or cheat more than once or twice for people to get to know about you and how you show up and your values, and that starts to run throughout the organization. Question 12, management applies fast, intelligent decision making. A huge amount of red here. And so for me, this really signals a complete break between staff, the lower staff and the lower managers, and the higher exco management. This is costing this company millions. If I have to look at this, there's no trust in the relationships. There's the credibility factor. So even when the exco start to deliver messages, they don't carry the credibility. And so you have a huge problem in cascading stuff all the way down to the bottom of the organization. Management applies fast action taking. In today's terms, we live in a hyper-speed world where your competition isn't the next big multi-million competitor. It's two guys in the garage with an internet point and some innovative thinking. I heard recently there are two guys now that are looking to take on Tesla that are outsourcing everything. And we live in a very dramatically different world today with all of the new different technologies. And so speed and agility and responsiveness is vital. I'm busy looking to do work with one of the large banks, and the event date is 3 weeks time from now, but I got feedback from them that procurement wants 4 to 6 weeks to do due diligence for 100,000 Rand procurement. And I'm thinking, what, really, 4 to 6 weeks for you to go through a process to check out and make sure my company is okay? So question number 14 is management coaches staff. We know that the world is changing from excuse all the noise, the bing bongs here. We know that management is being driven to become coaches rather than command and control conquerors. And so we see from this image a few people, and we probably find similar. There's some good managers here, and then some of these others, the managers are just the old push, command, control. Everything runs downhill, no feedback, no interactivity at all. If you're going to create a high-performance workplace that delivers exponential results, your management, your leadership need to be coaches in their approach, as opposed to the scream and beam them in the head with a pole kind of guys. Management to exco is very positive and effective. Question 15. I'm just looking at all this red in this organization, and I'm thinking, wow, imagine the stress levels, the distrust, the lack of communication, the miscommunication. If this only impacts their annual turnover by 1%, we're talking billions. This is a mega organization, and we often think that the big organizations have got it sussed, and I can tell you, here's a real true life case study. Management applies strong leadership. Some happy bunnies, some people not so happy. For me, right through this entire organization, they need some kind of a holistic, cohesive, structured process to begin to build a strong leadership ethic and culture, values-based approach. Management focuses on achieving worthwhile results. You know, we have to look at what is worthwhile results, in whose eyes, and what are those results. But a few more happy bunnies, and I know because of the department that I'm working with, this is around a financial measurement, and they obviously get rewarded and measured on the financial numbers. Management provides autonomy to achieve meaningful goals. We know with our new generations, meaning, purpose is a vital component of the process. It keeps people coming back. It's in your war for talent, in retaining your talent. This meaningfulness and growth and achievement and contribution is vital. One happy bunny that I would once again challenge the score, and a majority of red and quite a few low reds, which for me would be very concerning. Question 19, management brings high levels of positive energy, passion, commitment. There's some there, but there's some far down here. Quite a few people, and like we said, 6% of a system. So 2% in this team, 2 people in this team could completely smash your momentum, passion, and commitment in the process. Question 20, my manager creates time for my leadership and self-development. A few more people because of their positive relation to their first level manager, and because it's my manager, their direct upline. But also disconcerting to see some people at 0 here. And so we will be able to drill down if we did this by manager, we could then see which managers are positive and supportive and getting more out of people, and which ones need some help in creating a better context in the environment. Because leadership's job is to create the engagement. It's not the staff. Science of Happiness at Work says it's staff to be happy and for the organization to build the context and the culture. But with engagement, it's a management and leadership responsibility to create that context. So let's have a look at the engagement component of this organization. So here we have the engagement 10 questions down the left-hand side. This is consolidation. Each vertical line is an individual. Total scores for the engagement 10 questions. Higher equals better. Everything less than 70 out of 100 is red, and out of the high performance range, everything above is green, and we can see a lot of red again. So a substantial amount of disengagement in the process. So question 21, management inspires and supports staff to accomplish extraordinary results. We're at 6 out of 10. A few people right down at 4 and 5. There's really not much drive here. This for me is a very apathetic environment, and I've spoken to some of the people to get a sense of what it is, and there's no real push. There's push and need from the external higher levels, but there's no internal inspiration to jump up and deliver outstanding, extraordinary results. Question 22, we have a complementary and connected workforce with great teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. We know for the future that it's about teams, it's about high-performing, cohesive, connected, collaborating, good communicating teams. And here we can see there's a lot of problems down in this team. 1 or 2, 3. Happy Bunny's only at 8 out of 10. In a large part of my research and my work, we find that many people are phoning up saying we want a fun team building. They're completely oblivious of the need to actually create a real team environment. And so they're happy to spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 Rand on a one-day fun day out, laughter with no difference on Monday when you get back at work. But when you try and talk to them about doing something more serious, it just seems to be too big for their brain to hold. 23, company maintains good long-term relationships with all stakeholders. In an organization, it's not just a one-man, one person, one team, one space. We're a complex system that has to work together and collaborate and communicate. And the fact that this is so low for some of these people about these positive relationships goes back to also the leadership issues with lack of integrity and lack of trust. Relationships are the foundation that allow you to have some kind of slack in mistakes and problems and challenges. The stronger the relationships, the more cohesion and connection and attraction that you have to rebuild after a whoopsie. And so this would be very concerning for me. This gets to a point where people are just covering their ABCs. Workplace offers high levels of certainty. One of the big human needs, it's back to your amygdala in the brain with the work of David Rock. If you take away certainty, you take away that stability. Imagine you trying to do something standing on a lilo in the pool. You can't do much. You can give it a try, but you're not going to be able to do a huge amount when you have high levels of uncertainty. And when I look at this graph, I'm thinking, wow, there's a few people, but a majority, once again, there's way too many here, are living in very, very uncertain spaces, right down at 1s and 2s and 4s and 5s. Management for me have smashed the agreement and the trust and the certainty for this team. And this is a core function team that drives the entire organization. We know also that recognition and validation and appreciation are core drivers for people to bring out their best and their engagement. So question 26 under the engagement is, I get enough recognition or significance. We've got a few greenies, but there's a lot of red underneath again. And it doesn't take more than 2 or 3 or 4 times for somebody to not say thank you or not give appreciation before you take your foot off the gas and say, why must I try flat out? Why must I give my best? Why must I go the extra mile? For what? They don't value, they don't appreciate that. And it doesn't cost money. It doesn't take time just to say, thank you, I appreciate, excellent, well done. Here for me is probably one of the most relevant questions to show me what the true workplace is like. Question 27, I would happily refer my best friend to come and work in this space. Wow, half the people, I mean, we've got people at 0 and a lot of people very low down. That really tells me the level of toxicity and unfriendliness in the workplace. And it would be interesting to see this by manager. I'm just looking to keep this as anonymous as possible, but this is for me such an incredible signal that there's big stuff, big problems in this space. And so retaining your talent, attracting talent gets more expensive, less of the training that training department tries to push out into the space stays in the organization. This is a very big red flag for me. We are treated, rewarded, or promoted fairly. Once again, some people would be interesting to see their managers, but a lot of the people feel that there's an unfair balance. And the moment there's an unfair balance, the brain goes into alert. It focuses 3 times more on fear, pain, blame, shame, hurt, avoidance than it does on positivity. And so you've got this spiral, this negative spiral in this organization. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Remember, 6% out of 24, 10% is 2, 6%, 2 point something. 2 people can smash this dynamic here, and you've already got like 5 or 6 that are very unhappy. So you have a lot of unhappy, highly disengaged, what I call terrorists in your organization. Question 29, we tell the truth and discuss hard problems. Telling the truth and being open and honest creates that certainty and the possibility for staff to have a voice, which is one of the core drivers of engagement. And once again, these scores are very low. There's 1 or 2 that are reasonably high, and 1 that's very high, and 6 that are a little bit behind there. But the rest of the people, it doesn't take much to pop a balloon. You can have this huge, wonderful balloon. 1 small prick can pop your balloon. It doesn't, to break trust, doesn't have to be huge things. One little thing can completely smash the trust and credibility. And when I look here, a huge amount of work is going to have to be done to rebuild trust and credibility and make it a safe space for people to speak out. I feel I'm growing and progressing daily and using my talents. We know from the research on engagement, people that use their strengths and are able to do what they do best daily are more engaged. The new generations, the younger generations, want places where they can grow and expand and see progress in the thing. And so we have half the people that are reasonably okay and the other half that are not in that high performance zone. And so really you have this wonderful high performance potential team with so many things that are just creating imbalances in the workplaces. So that's question 30. That's the CLE for the engagement. Let's get to the action, high performance action environment, and see how we go there. So in the action, we can see we're doing a whole lot better. Everything above 70 out of 100. Each vertical bar is an individual total for the entire 10 questions. But we still have a huge amount of dead red on this side of the environment. So question 31, we've adopted a strategy that sets us clearly and profitably apart. The challenge that we have is that we live in such a VUCA or complex world. No longer can you just get the CEO or the Exco team to go away for a bosberaad, spend $1 million and come back with a manual and a strategy document that says, here's what we want you to execute for the next year or 2. And sorry about this. And so, we know that we have to get involvement and inclusion for people so that they have ownership, they have contribution, they have buy-in, and they will then execute with excellence. But I would think that there's a lot of wisdom that's hiding in this group that the Exco haven't taken the time and haven't got the trust or credibility to be shared into an organization. And so at the end of the day, a large part of your potential is going home still stuck in the box. 32, we continuously innovate its products, processes, and services. In today's terms, we cannot stand still. Waiting to see is waiting to die. And so this continuous blue ocean style innovation and improvement in all areas, not just the products or services, but in what you're offering, in how you're processing. It's literally that Kaizen, every day optimizing and improving on a daily basis. If you're going to create a high-performance organization, you have to have this consciously driven seeking for how do we improve every single day. What are we doing to improve what we're delivering? Management engages in honest and open dialogue with staff. Once again, good, positive, safe relationships make it a great workplace. Create engagement to believe and feel that your manager actually cares. And I just keep looking at the amount of red here, and I'm thinking, it's just because this is such a huge organization that their momentum is carrying them. But it is costing them, that they're not completely aware of the cost. You know, if you make 20 million and you lose 1 million because of leaks and issues, it's not that noticeable. If you're only making 2 million and you lose 1 million, it's very noticeable. So it'll be interesting to see what decisions they take once they've gone through the data. Management holds teams and staff responsible or accountable. As we can see here, a lot more green. Accountability and that coach approach is such an important component for excellence and execution and creating a high-performance, stable, long-term high-performance workplace, understanding that results matter and knowing that you'll be held accountable. But once again, I would be interested to see which managers are the ones that are holding them and not holding them. If you were a client, we would literally be able to sit with the software and say, show me this by manager, show me it by race, show me it by gender, show me it by workplace position. And we've been able to get an X-ray and drill right down to literally to find out which is the individual or which are the individuals that are doing well and understand what they're doing and how to roll that out through the rest of the organization. Organization is aimed at servicing customers, the inner customers and outer customers at world-class level. Some really good green here, but we're only as strong as our weakest link. And if you've got a weak link in your organization, you can have really high performance spaces, and if 1 or 2 or 3 spaces then drop the ball, everybody gets tarred with the same brush. And that's why in doing the high performance system, the CLEARx system, all 6 areas must be equally addressed concurrently. It's not just a fix one and hope. And if you're going to have a racing car, all 4 wheels must be balanced. You can't balance one and pump one up and leave the other 3 down and hope that you're going to be able to have any level of success. The organization grows through partnerships with staff, suppliers, and customers. I think in today's world, the changing dynamics for talent competition and talent growth and retention, we have to create new relationships and partnerships and with suppliers, so that we're not just an island. We're starting to create larger circles of impact and locus of controls and relationships if we're going to be a high-performance, sustainable organization. So we have quite a bit of green, but also it's quite low, but also a lot of red. And so clearly that's with staff and customers. I know from my own experience, some of this customer service leaves a lot to be desired. Question number 37, a healthy green. I know and agree with my responsibilities and accountabilities. That's one of the driving factors in creating a high-performance workplace, is clarity of how you fit into the picture and what you're accountable for. So it's good to see the amount of green, but I'm still would be concerned with the red that's out there, because once again, weakest link, my output is someone else's input and their output is someone else's input. And so this cascading impact can take a high-performance opportunity and potential and just take it down the chute into hopeless performance. If you're going to perform and be a high-performance team, you need the right tools and the context. And so question 38, we have all the tools and resources. This would be an alarming graph for me, and I would want to know why my people don't have the resources. You cannot expect people to bring their best if they don't have the best. You can't expect them on an ongoing basis to keep pushing with a toothbrush and a spring and a piece of wire and a screwdriver to keep tuning a high performance system. So you've got to make sure you've got the right tools and resources that enable your people. You can have a great person that doesn't have adequate resources, and they're not going to be able to sustain a high performance environment. 39, we identify and resolve problems and conflicts quickly and easily. Conflict is always going to be part of an organization, especially in South Africa with our racial divides and our 12 different cultures and our political situation. But I've seen huge conflicts in many of my workshops when you do the research. Somebody hates somebody. There's somebody stood on someone's toes. Somebody lied, stole, crooked, or cheated. Somebody's pushing their agenda. And this conflict just creates a complete distraction for what's happening in the focus of the workplace. And this would be concerning for me too. We would need to create a better structure and a system and a process to resolve the conflicts. So skills training, but also resolving the conflicts. We've had workshops where the people on a Monday were vocal and said, I'll do anything but you keep that A, B, C, D, E, F, G person from me. And by Wednesday, we've been able to get them to get beyond that conflict, to actually be willing to physically embrace each other and rebuild trust, rebuild the relationship, and give the whole system a new chance. And that brings incredible energy back into the system. Number 40, every day I improve myself, my skills, my mindset, or relationships. Some nice green, some lots of red again. For me, the challenge is very often we overrate how well we are doing, and we want to be a bit err on the positive side. So for me, this is a little bit higher than most of them, but I would still, as an organizational leadership team, I would still create some kind of a structured process that there's literally a 5 minutes a day growth process and a half an hour a week process that you're constantly exercising and developing everybody's brain right across the board, every single person from the T-Girl to the Top Gun, that there's some area of development that's built into the culture and the DNA of the organization. So that's the 10 questions for the action part of the process. We know from research with Professor Stoltz, who generated and created the adversity intelligence. So you have IQ gets you on the field, EQ keeps you on the field, AQ helps you stay. Now, depends how hard you take a punch and can come back up. But in his newest work with managers they've researched around the world, they said to them, what's more important, mindset or skill set? And a majority of them came back and said, the right mindset with the right skill set is an ideal process. We know how to check skill set, but we don't know how to check mindset. And so they did research. They've got a score of the top 20 mindset qualities that managers around the world would prefer. We would work with managers and leaders to do it in their own organization, but it's nice to start and see what's the typical world standard of what people need for mindsets. So here is the mindset total out of 100, because it's 10 questions. Each bar is a vertical, is a person's consolidated response for this section. Everything smaller than 70 out of 100 is red, and the reds are quite low in this space. So that tells me a huge gap in developing the right people exists. So you might have gone and got skills training, but a highly skilled expert with a really bad attitude is hell, and that can in fact smash your entire team and organizational performance. Staff spend 10% of their time on communication, exchange, and learning. The way the world is, and even in South Africa, one of the biggest problems is lack of educated and trained and suitably qualified people. If your talent that you're working with, if it's all that you've got, it is becoming of you to take that raw resource and incrementally develop it, grow it, improve it, and optimize it. So for me, once again, there's huge opportunity to create a structured environment where people connect, collaborate, communicate in tribes and learning groups, luncheon learnings. Communication is one of the most important things in creating a high-performance team, of what and how, but very few people understand what's needed to embed that into the culture of the organization. I'm proud of how we do our work and make our money. It's very different to where I work. And so for me, this would be a very disconcerting graph to see some of these people that are so low down. What is it about the money issue? Because it leaves a very bad taste in the mouth, and that once again contributes to disengagement. And you'll probably find them probably slagging the organization off at the braai about the manager or something that happens there. But you really cannot expect the best out of a person to bring their best game if they don't have a strong positive feeling of how the organization makes its money. The organization continually innovates. Innovation is the core function of any organization, to take its foundation and find a way to stay ahead of the curve and ahead of the wave with artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of the new things that are happening nowadays. We have to, on a daily basis, harness all resources across the organization as part of the daily process of what's happening. How do we create these new things? I saw a very interesting article that Audi has joined an organization. They are now, because we have this whole carbon emission thing on the planet, they've now joined with a company that is capturing CO2 out of the air. They are then mixing with some hydrogen splitting process, and they're making e-fuel. So imagine that with some simple, well, not so simple technology, but with some innovation, they've now got a technology that the CO2 that is a problem for us is now becoming a core resource to creating an e-diesel, an e-fuel. Imagine if you could build that into a vehicle that it runs almost completely on its own. And that's coming. It's not here yet, but I can guarantee you one of the motor manufacturers will create a car that captures CO2, takes hydrogen, splits it with oxygen, creates the new e-diesel or e-fuel, and runs the car on that. It's coming. If you're not looking to innovate, optimize, and explore, we have a process called building a killer company, where we get the staff to bring ideas and concepts and stretch the possibility. What is science fiction today is going to be science fact tomorrow, and it's moving even faster as we get to this exponential curve in the graph of innovation, of technology, of adoption. 44, we have the right mindset to achieve exponential results. Everything's becoming more competitive. Everything is becoming do more with less. We have to turn our people from slaves in silos to gladiators that bring their best, that this becomes a foundation and an anchor that they bring out their best in themselves, in their team and the organization. But it starts with mindset. You can have the best skill set, the best cars. If the mindset of the driver is wrong, you have a problem. And there's a lot of red in this one. We have the right attitudes to achieve outstanding success. You can have a good mindset and a good skill set, but if you've got a negative attitude, an unfriendly attitude, or what I call a spiky attitude, there's going to be a problem. And I'm just looking at how low some of the reds are. I know in some instances I've heard situations where the manager doesn't even greet the staff in the morning. They might greet him, but he completely ignores them, or she completely ignores them. And I've seen situations where managers throw stuff around staff. And so you've got this anxiety and fear, uncertainty, no trust. Managers like that, for me, should be put into the blocks that they used to have with the people's heads and arms through, and we throw frot eggs and frot tomatoes at them. Staff are trained to be resilient, responsive, effective, and flexible. Psychological capital is a strong, important, vital foundation for building strong people and strong teams. Resilience is a core factor. Hope and self-efficacy. And as we get more and more technology coming to the organization, the soft stuff is becoming even more important. And so if you're an organization that's looking to thrive and create positive well-being and responsiveness as the new VUCA world comes at you, you need to make sure that we're developing psychological capital. And looking at this, there's a lot of room for improvement. Question 47, each day I improve one of my top 20 mindset qualities. It was interesting because I didn't give them the top 20 mindset qualities, but I'm looking at the responses to see, and it'd be interesting to see what they think are their mindset qualities. I know from my research that the higher levels of management and the lower levels of staff, very often there's a huge disparity between what one thinks is important and what the other one thinks is important. But we have a bit more green, but also quite a lot of low red for me. And if you have this high performance vehicle and your handbrake's on only half, it completely takes away any of that extra performance potential that you might have. 48, management are skilled enough to be able to get staff to deliver optimal performance. They're good at coaching, they're good at relationships, they're good at building trust, they're good at communication, clear communication. They're good at maintaining a positive relationship. They're good at giving safe, positive feedback. They're good at making the workplace a psychologically safe place. They're good at how they communicate as well as what they communicate. And so this tells me the management here have huge gaps in those skills, and they need to be improved and optimized. We have high trust teams, and trust is a tax. If you don't have trust, it's a tax in performance that you pay. And the higher the trust, the more performance you can get out of a team and an organization. And so for me, this is once again, this whole organization. There's so much red in this space that I mean, for me, it's exciting because there's huge opportunity and potential to start to create a high-performance workplace. This also is very telling for me. Question 50 is staff embrace and support our drive for higher performance. Very, very hard if you're trying to pedal uphill and no one else is pedaling. No one else has got the energy, the motivation, the inspiration, the contribution, the collaboration. It's just you trying to push wet string uphill, and if you've ever tried to do that, you know that it can be a huge challenge. But for me, there's way too much red for this thing, and so you can't just use your internal training resource to try and resolve. This is deep, deep, deep stuff. It's got to be redesigned and rewired and reprocessed to resolve the constraints here. The final part in the CLEARx framework is the execution, the exponential. And so question 51, this is the individual score, vertical 1 to 10 for question 51. Higher equals better. The organization processes are continuously improved. We had a very similar one earlier on, but as we can see, a lot of the people don't agree with that. And so the same old, same days, next day stuff, same baggage as yesterday. And eventually you just wear the people down. You know, high performance people, even good positive people, put into a bad environment eventually will get worn down fairly quickly. We hold each other accountable with consistent and gentle pressure. We embed and bring peer coaching to the workplace. So you've got coaching with your manager, but we create peer coaching relationships horizontally in the organization. And so you can see here there's a lot of fear or withdrawal to hold other people accountable, and it just comes back to apathy, disengagement. Why care? If we don't make it, we don't get deadlines, we don't achieve the goals or the outcomes. So there's a few people pushing hard and the rest are just coasting on the space.